Amen.
No, he never said we would be safe. He never said the path we're walking on, no, it wouldn't have hurt us to face. But the Lord did promise me freedom, or the Lord did promise me strength. He said we soar on wings of eagles and not grow weary or faint. Yeah. My hope, my hope, my hope, hope. Ooh, oh, 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 my hope, my hope. You're my world, you're my hope. Oh, oh, oh. There is hope in every situation, all this pain I'm facing. For every dream I'm chasing, there's hope. There is hope in every situation, all this pain I'm facing. For every generation, there's hope. There is hope. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. You are my hope. My hope, my world, my joy. You're my hope, you're my world, you're my world, you're my hope.
Feel like I just woke up from a 2-year nap. Everything's been so strange, but I woke up. Now I'm finally back, feeling myself and seeing things I never used to notice. Life don't look so hopeless now. I'm clicking my heels and I'm skipping my feet. Everything seems so new, it's like I'm me, but with a whole new piece. Never thought I'd come through, but now I know that all the dark.
just like kind of abandoned you. Hey. Oh, and that got really awkward. It got quiet all of a sudden. Yay, go Keystone High School. All right. Guys, what is up? I'm so glad that you guys are here. All right, tonight's gonna look a little bit different. Actually, every night, like lately, has been looking a little bit different. So we're trying to mix it up a little bit. So here's what we're gonna do. We are actually gonna jump pretty much right in. I got two announcements for you, and then we're gonna jump right in to the teaching, because I wanna give you guys tons of time in the back end in your small groups. So where's my boy David at? Oh, he's not here. Okay, I'll do his announcement for him. Okay, so two announcements. Number one, tonight is Wednesday. Duh. Okay, best night of the week. I know. Okay, do you guys know what Friday is?
Friday fun day. Reset sign up. Sign up, reset.
No school. Some of you are still struggling a little bit. What was it? Camp sign up is Friday. Yes. Guys, all right, two things. Number one, camp registration opens Friday at 7 a.m. When we planned that, I didn't really know that you guys didn't have school at 7 a.m., so sorry about that. So you're going to have to get up out of bed to do camp registration. But listen here, it is going to be totally worth it. We are taking a bus out to Estes Park again. How many of you went to Estes Park with us before? How many of you pushed me in my wheelchair? Okay, cool. Just the so ashes. All right. No, you too. All right. Yeah. So it's going to be awesome. I'm really, really excited. Here's the deal, guys. We got one big bus this year. We have 45 student seats available. Okay. I know those are going to sell out pretty quick. So my encouragement to you would be, even if you don't get up at 7 a.m. to sign up that first day or that first weekend, but if you do get up to sign up at 7 a.m., let me tell you why it's worth it. Number one, because you get to be part of the Gen 10. And you're like, I don't know what that is. Here's what the Gen 10 is the first 10 people to sign up for camp get all kinds of special bonuses. Number one, it's a really long bus ride. I think you want you and your friends to have first shot at getting the good spot on the bus. So if you're like, I get really bus sick, probably sit at the front. It gets windy. But if you're like, I want to be away from all the younger kids, go to the back of the bus. It's way better back there, right? So you get your first spot on the bus for you and your friends. Number two, I'm going to give you guys a travel pack to make 12 hours of road tripping way more enjoyable. Anybody pizza blanket people? Where's my pizza blanket people at? You got one too? I couldn't remember who I gave them all to. So that was the Gen 10, was the pizza blankets, make every road trip better. I don't know what it'll be this year. I'm pretty sure it won't be blankets, but you never know. So that is coming up Friday at 7. We're going to be gone July 12th through the 16th out in Estes Park. Guys, I can't wait to go hiking with you. I want to go back to the scene of the crime. It's going to be awesome. You guys will go with me, Noah? I promise not to climb anything. Scouts Honor or whatever the Star Trek Spock thing is. Okay, cool. All right, so I just offended like 80% of everyone right there. All right, that last announcement is David's announcement, but he's still not here. So here's the last announcement is this. We are really going to be pressing into building out our worship team over the next few months, over the summer. And we're going to be investing a lot of time and energy into helping students be the one who are here on stage leading worship more and more and more. And so, because of that, if you play an instrument that is like, if you play, I'm sorry, but if you play the xylophone, like I got nothing for you. But if you sing, if you play piano, guitar, electric guitar, bass, whatever, any of those, and you're interested, even if you're nervous, would you fill out the interest form? Not the I'm going to do it form, but the interest form. There's just one on the back. There's like there's a white cabinet back there with a bunch of forms on that. Just fill it out, drop it in the basket. That just gives us an idea, who do we have? So we know, like, hey, I have 47 female vocalists and one guitar player. That's super helpful to know, right? If you play bass or drums, like you just there's a place to check that, and we'll get you hooked up with all of that. So, okay. We talked about camp, we've talked about music, and I'm just going to dive right in tonight, and here's why. I want to give you guys as much time as possible in your groups because I think that's actually where tonight's going to be the most helpful for you. And so if you're new with us or you're newer but just recently back, we just started last week a series called Letters from Grandpa. And Letters from Grandpa is a book study through the book of Proverbs, and it's just this old man writing to a young man over and over again, and he's like, hey, I have something I need you to hear. I have something I need you to listen to, and it's going to protect you or it's going to help you, and it's full of wisdom. If you've never read the book of Proverbs, I would highly encourage it. There's 31 chapters. Pick it up. Read a proverb a day. It keeps the devil away. Okay, I don't know if that's actually true or not, but you should read it. Read a Proverbs, okay? Jump in there and read it, and over again, we're going to see this older guy talking to this younger guy. And so over and over in the book of Proverbs, girls, you're going to be like, why do they keep talking to the guy? What about me? And so here's what I want you to know when we teach tonight, that it is all about, it's all written to a guy from a man's perspective. But guys, girls, I think this is equally applicable to you. This could have been an old lady to a young lady. It just happens to have been an old man to a young man. And so we're going to jump in. I want to acknowledge a couple things. Number one, tonight's topic is one that the church has not always been sure how to talk about because, number two, it is inherently hard and difficult and sometimes a little bit awkward. I'm going to say this, that I taught middle schoolers right before you guys, and I was much gentler and much kinder to them than I will be to you. Okay? It's not because I love you less, it's actually because I love you more. Sorry, middle schoolers, if you heard that. It's not because I love you less, but it's because I love you too much to skirt around hard things. And so tonight, the topic is love and lust from the book of Proverbs. And primarily, we are going to tackle the issues of pornography and sexual sin. So we are going to primarily tackle the issues of pornography and sexual sin. And I know that this is not the most fun message to hear. Trust me, it's not my favorite one to teach, right? Nobody wakes up when they're like, you know what I want to do? I want to be a youth pastor so I can have awkward conversations with teenagers. It's so fun. But can I tell you guys, it is one that I think has the potential to save you from a whole lot of regret, whether you're a guy or a girl, whether you're in a relationship or you feel like you're stuck and hopelessly single. It has potential to help you whether you were deeply craving a relationship or you're like, relationships are dumb. Why would anyone want one of those? No matter where you're at on the spectrum, this topic has the potential to both save you a lot of trouble and to help bring you the most joy. So I don't know if you've ever bought something that you later regretted. Anybody ever, you've had a regrettable purchase? I have a regrettable purchase. So a couple years ago, I really wanted a pair of AirPod Pros, okay? Anybody have AirPods, your AirPod people, whether regular or pro, I'm not judging, okay? Your AirPod people, okay? So I really wanted a pair of AirPods, but I don't know if you know this, but AirPod Pros are expensive, okay? And I am like 3 kids and I work for a church broke, so I'm like, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna keep looking and wait for them to go on sale, and I keep clicking, and they're just always expensive. They're like $250, and I'm like, who would spend that for a piece of plastic to wedge in your ear? That's dumb. But I really wanted them. And so I watched, and I clicked, and sooner or later, I started to see these ads pop up on the internet. Not for AirPod Pros, but for Air Pros. They're like the same thing, only a little bit different. Right? They have the exact same functionality, except for being designed by Apple in California. They're designed by some random guy, probably in like Malaysia somewhere, right? And instead of being $249, they're $24.99. Or if you buy the really good pair, you can get them for like $35, and you're like, ooh, those are gonna be good. And I thought about it. Do I hold out till I can justify spending $200 on a pair of whatever, things, my ears? Or do I just settle for like the fake, cheap imitation? I thought about it for a long time. I tossed it around for a long time. And then finally I did it. I clicked it. Buy now. Amazon shipped me my new Air Pros. I got my Air Pros, and instead of coming in a white Apple box, they came in a little brown cardboard box, which immediately it felt a little sketchy, right? But it came from Amazon, so how bad could it be? So I pulled off the brown cardboard box, and inside that brown cardboard box is the AirPod Pros. They look just like them. Nobody will ever know. When I go to work with all the other pastoral staff that has the real AirPod Pros, and I pull out my Air Pro fake Pros, everyone's gonna think I'm just as cool as they are. Nobody's gonna know. And I bet they'll sound good too, because they advertised all of the things, right? They said high dynamic range, extra great bass lowness, right? Like high highs. You're like, this is gonna be awesome, right? So I get these out. Sure enough, open the case, and if you have AirPods, or if you've seen someone who has AirPods, if you've not been living under a rock, what happens is if you have an iPhone, what happens is they pop up on your screen, it says, not your AirPods, right? And then you just connect, and next thing you know, like, you're off to the races, you're in great shape. And sure enough, I open my new Air Pros, my fake Pros, and they do the same thing. I'm like, these are just as good as the real thing. Why would any sucker spend $250 for the real thing, right? They're just as good. And then you put them in your ears and you start to play and you're like, that doesn't, okay, maybe, what's all the hype about? Like, maybe AirPod Pros aren't that great because these don't sound all that great, but they're okay and they look really cool and they're comfortable in my ears and they block out my kids screaming. So I'm like, they're working well, right? Like, and then like 5 minutes later, like battery low, like they start dying on me and then they won't reconnect and you're like, these things are a piece of crap, right? I just wasted $35. There's a reason I tell you that story. It might seem really disconnected, but here it is. What if the fake thing that you settle for costs you a lot more than the $35? I don't know if you've ever settled for a fake product and you thought, it'll be fine. It'll be totally fine. I'm not spending the money on the real thing. By the way, long story short, Amazon does refund money. They gave me my money back, and I did shell out for the real ones when they went on sale, and I can tell you, they're not the same thing. It happened with $35, and let's just say I lost the $35. Who cares? It's $35. I'll forget about it in a week. Well, clearly not. I'm still bitter. But I would normally have forgotten about it in a week. But what if I wagered and I bet my life on a fake version of something that cost me a whole lot more than $35? What if, instead of fake AirPods, there's something else that I really wanted out of life, but I didn't feel like I could get my hands on? And it wasn't AirPods, but it was love. What if I grew up desiring deeply to be loved, to feel love, to get to experience love, to love someone else? And as I matured and as I got a little bit older, you don't just want to be loved by your mom, like that's great and all, but like, no. Guys, you want to actually be loved by like a girl, like not like your mom girl, but like a real girl, and not just like a motherly hug. Like you're like, no, I want romantic love. I don't want to be alone. I want to be with somebody. I want to be loved. I want to be valued. I want to be appreciated. I want love. I want this guy to show me that I'm worth it. I want this girl to show me that I've got what it takes. And I've got this deep longing for love. But just like those expensive AirPods, which I could have totally bought, but honestly, it just felt like a really big waste of money. Unlike those, you don't have the means to get it. You've tried, and no matter what you've tried, love feels so far away. But in all your thinking about what it would be like to be loved and what it would be like to find love, you begin to notice something else. Something that feels a little bit more attainable, a little bit more like maybe you could get your hands on this. And it's not love, but it's lust. Lust is just a fake version of love. Lust is the Air Pro knockoff version of love. And tonight, when we look at this proverb, we're going to look at the real product we want is love, because it would bring delight, joy, and pleasure to life. But the fake product is lust. Lust masquerades and pretends to be love, but at the heart, it is the enemy of love. Love feels unreachable, it feels far, it feels distant, but love is always within reach. Lust is always within reach. And we think maybe it'll be just as good. Maybe we even fool ourselves into thinking it's the real thing. So tonight, we're going to look at the cause of lust, the cost of lust, and the cure for lust. So the cause, the cost, and the cure. And we're going to be in Proverbs chapter 7. And so just to kind of define lust for you, lust is a desire to have someone who is not for you, or at a time that is not for you, or in a way that is not for you, right? So lust is the desire, specifically in this case, sexually, to have someone in a time, in a way that is not designed for you. So we're going to read Proverbs 7, 1 through 5 as the introduction. He says this, "My son, obey my words and treasure my commands. Keep my commands and live and guard my instructions so that you, so as you would, guard your instructions as you would the pupil of your eye. Tie them to your fingers. Write them on the tablet of your heart." You're like, that's weird. I know, but what he means is just listen close. Why? Verse 5, "Because she will keep you from a forbidden woman and a wayward woman with her flattering talk." He says, hey, guys, girls, listen up. If you hear what I have to tell you tonight, it will protect you from the wayward woman, the forbidden woman, or the forbidden guy. It will protect you. It will guard you. Don't miss this. You cannot miss this. So I want to give you a couple of disclaimers. Number one, I told you this already. It was written specifically to a young man, but it is not just to young men. It is also to young ladies. It is to middle-aged men and women. It is equally true of both genders at all stages of life. But especially where you are right now, you have the ability to hear this and to make a choice. Number two, we're going to address the issues of pornography and lust from a biblical issue, but I want you to hear this. There are a ton, and we're going to talk about a few of them, a ton of people who would not even remotely identify with Jesus, but they would equally say the dangers of lust and pornography are going to destroy you. Please listen. And finally, I hope that you'll see that God's instructions here are designed to enhance your joy, your happiness, and your satisfaction in life. They are for your good. Sometimes I think about God, and I think sometimes he just wants to keep me from doing all the fun stuff that everybody else is doing. And that's not what he says. He goes, actually, I want to protect you. I want to protect you. So if you aren't sure if this talk is for you, I'm going to ask you a series of questions. I'm going to ask them quickly, but hopefully you'll know if you should listen. Have you ever seen or pursued pornography? Have you ever seen or looked at people in the halls of your schools and the places that you go and you've thought of them sexually? Have you ever been hashtag chasing across Instagram looking for that one photo that's going to fulfill your joy and your desire? Have you hopped from image to image on Snapchat and TikTok and whatever platform you are? Have you browsed things and looked at things on an app or in a browser that we would go, I am ashamed of that and I wish it wasn't so, or at least I hope I don't get caught? This is for you. Have you laid in bed late at night, early in the morning, sat bored, staring off into the sky, dreaming about what it would be like or fantasizing about what it would be like to have that one guy or that one girl to yourself? What would it be like? This talk is for you. Have you been in relationships that you've pushed farther and farther, or you've allowed someone to pull you farther and farther into a direction of lust that you knew wasn't healthy, but you couldn't stand up to it because you were afraid you might lose love? When in fact, it was just lust all along. This talk is for you. And I don't want you to walk out of here tonight with shame or guilt. I actually want you to walk out of here with practical tools and help and hope. And so there's no one pointing a finger at you. There's an old guy standing here going, guys, will you listen? Will you listen? Because I've seen the destruction that it has, both in my own life and in the lives of so many students and adults around me. Don't miss this. So look what he says in Proverbs 7. The old man tells a story. He says, I sat at a window of my house. I looked through my lattice. I don't know what a lattice is, but he's looking out the window. I know that, okay? I saw the inexperienced, and I noticed among the youths, that's you guys, the youths, super cool term, the young man lacking sense. He was crossing the street near her corner. He strolled down the road to her house at twilight, in the evening, in the dark of the night. He says, I looked out my window, and there's this young guy, and he's wandering in this direction toward this girl. He's moving toward her. I see it in the streets. And I want to say this, when we think about sexual sin, lust, and pornography, guys, this is a widely cultural issue. We see it in our streets. You see it in your schools. You see it all over the internet, the theaters, everywhere you look, you see it. Anyone with a pair of eyes can go, I looked out my window and I saw it. I saw a young man or a young woman pursuing lust. It is not a secret. It's not rare. 80% of young men look at porn at least monthly. 80%. That's 8 out of every 10 guys. But get this, girls, you're not off the hook. 1 out of every 3 people who are using pornography websites are women. 1 out of 3. In other words, this is not something that only a few people are experiencing it. The average first-time exposure to most pornography, or at least sexual content, is between ages 12 and 14. Most of you are there or older. Actually, all of you, I think, are probably older than that, which is why this conversation is way different than the one I had with the 11-year-olds earlier. Here's a crazy statistic. If you watch the trends, teen sex is actually dropping, while teen pornography use is skyrocketing. And that was true before COVID when we all got isolated. This is a widely cultural issue, and we're going to have a very frank conversation about it, if you can't tell already. Because here's why. If you don't control your sexual desire, it will control you. And to put it another way, kill lust or lust will kill you. That's your choice. Kill lust or it will kill you. So lust, again, is a strong sexual desire for someone or something you were not designed to have, or in a way or a time you were not designed to have it. What's the cause of it? Let's just look, I'm just going to explore a little bit more what lust is, in case you're like, I don't know if that's me. Sexual thoughts or fantasies. Feeding thoughts or images, entertaining ideas of a life together. Any sexual act or fulfillment outside of God's design for marriage. That includes pornography. That includes masturbation. It includes messing around with your boyfriend and your girlfriend. It includes all of that. It's not just pornography, it's also the chasing the hashtags. As you hashtag hop from one thing to another, it's the things that you pursue. It's the movies that we watch. It's the music that we listen to. Any other thing you can think of that would sexually fulfill you outside of marriage. Guys, God designed our sexual desire to be like a flame inside of us. And lust is like this bottle of kerosene that we're dumping on that flame. And instead of enhancing us, it actually destroys everything in its wake. Kill lust or lust will kill you. The cause of lust is that we are feeding sexual desire. I'm going to read the next 10 verses. Read along with me. Verse 11 says this, talking about the woman, which could just as easily, by the way, be girls chasing a guy. It says this about the woman. A woman came to meet him dressed like a prostitute and having a hidden agenda. She was loud and she was defiant. Her feet didn't stay at home. Now the streets and now in the square, she lurks in every corner. She grabs him. She kisses him. She says to him, I've made offerings today. I've fulfilled my vows. Come to meet you, to search for you. I've found you. I've spread coverings on my bed, richly colored linens from Egypt. I've perfumed my bed with myrrh and aloes and cinnamon. Come, let's drink deeply of lovemaking till morning. Let's feast on each other's love. Guys, she is luring him in. Girls, he is luring you in. Guys and girls, it may be a real person. It may be somebody that you're actually physically interacting with, but this is exactly how the internet works. It lures you in. You see one thing, and then you see something else, and you're enticed a little bit and a little bit and a little bit. And the more you feed lust, the more it grows. The more you feed it, the more it grows, and the more it takes to satisfy your desires. You see, this isn't just a Jesus thing. This is also a science thing. There's a website called Fight the New Drug. It's an organization that is not religious. They are completely not religious, but they are out trying to fight against the rampant pornography use. And here's what they say about the research that they've done and that other studies have done. They talk about there's two parts of your brain that are activated anytime lust is at play. It says there's a wanting center of your brain, and then there's the liking center of your brain. And what happens is the more you engage and indulge lust, the more it fires, right at first it fires that liking center, right away. Doesn't take much, just a glance at this guy, a glance at this girl, and you think about it, that's all it takes. But then it takes a little bit more, and a little bit more. And so the more exposure that we have, the more it takes to feed the desire of the liking center. On the flip side of this brain, of your brain, is this wanting center of your brain, right? And so the wanting center, it starts with just a little curiosity, just a little spark, and then over time, you want it more and more. And so the irony is, the more you engage and indulge your lust, the more you want it and the less you actually like it. And if you've experienced lust, you know that's true. So what do? It takes more and more. The more you want, your wanting grows, the less easily your liking is satisfied. So you dive deeper and deeper into sexual sin. And some of you, you don't need data to prove that. Because that's the story of your life. You're like, yep, done it, been there. I've done it, I've been there. What do I do? Some of you, you've pressed further and further into temptation. You've moved further and further. What began as an accidental glance, then became a linger, then became a pursuit, and then became this burning, consuming fire, and you just hate yourself in the morning when you wake up. So that's the cause of lust, is that we feed our sexual desire. We pursue this woman or this man of the night. What is the cost of lust? Again, regardless of your position and your opinion of the Bible, this is true that sociologists, scientists, psychologists all agree that the damage of pornography and other sexual deviation will have on you, your relationship, and our society is immeasurable. Lust will always take you farther than you wanted to go. It will keep you longer than you wanted to stay, and it will cost you more than you were ever willing to pay. This could be your pornography. It could just be your fantasy and your thinking of someone that you can't have. It will always take you farther than you want to go, keep you longer than you wanted to stay, and cost you more than you were ever willing to pay. Indulging lust, I heard this said, indulging lust is like going shopping when you have no money. You will either leave frustrated or you will take something that doesn't belong to you. When you indulge your lust, you will either leave frustrated or you will take something that doesn't belong to you. Those are your choices. If you're going to say yes to lust. Lust and pornography ruins everything. Look at Proverbs 7. We're going to start in verse 19. Look at the secrecy of it. My husband isn't home. He went on a long journey. He took a bag of silver with him and will come home at the time of the full moon. In other words, we have plenty of time. No one will ever know. Nobody has to find out. Tell me you haven't said that to yourself. Nobody has to know. But then what does she say? She seduces him with her persistent pleading. She lures with her flattering talk. He follows her impulsively. Check this out. Like an ox going to the slaughter, or a deer bounding toward a trap until an arrow pierces its liver, or like a bird darting into a snare, he doesn't know it will cost him his life. It will cost him his life. Lust and porn ruins genuine friendships because you can't engage with people and talk to people and think about people without sexual thoughts. It destroys your ability to have friendships with the opposite gender. Lust and porn fuels the sex trade, sex slavery, and child abuse. It fuels that. That's the cost. Lust and porn leads unwitting young men and young women into physical bodily harm. Guys, that's the cost of lust. And I told you I was going to be honest with you because I think this is too important. It's too important to beat around the bush, guys. Lust creates emotional compromise. You become addicted to variety because you can hop from one guy or one girl to the next, to the next, to the next. Addicted to variety when sex was meant to bond one man and one woman for life, but instead it's bonding you to your screen and pieces of your heart to 1,000 different people across the internet and across your school. That's what lust does. Lust and porn creates sexual dysfunction. It takes more and more to satisfy, and you experience less and less joy. And if you think that's true now, don't think it's going to end when you find a marriage and you're in a happy marriage and then everything's great. Because if it took 1,000 clicks to satisfy you before, what makes you think one lifelong partner is going to make it any different? Kill lust, or lust will kill you. Lust and porn teaches selfishness, not sacrifice. So selfishness versus sacrifice. You get what you want when you want it, regardless of the consequence to anyone else. Is that what you want to carry into a healthy relationship? And so what do we do? Proverbs chapter 7, verses 24 says this. Now, sons, listen to me. Daughters, listen to me. Pay attention to the words of my mouth. Don't let your heart turn aside to her ways or stray to her paths. She brought down many to death. Her victims are countless. Guys, listen to me. I'm going to give you 3 C's that will help be the cure for lust. Before I do, though, while we're on the cost, is an illustration I heard this week that was super helpful for me. Have you ever watched a movie or you think about these sailors who get stranded at sea? Like you see these news reports about like, oh, there's a cruise ship stuck at sea or there's sailors stuck out at sea. One of the things that begins to happen is over time, you run out of water to drink. Now, cruise ships is not a big deal, but you have a small fishing vessel, and it happens pretty quick. And believe it or not, when you run out of fresh water to drink, hydration becomes a real issue. And so you begin to freak out that you're going to die of thirst because you feel like, will I ever have my thirst satisfied and quenched? And you look over the side of the ship, and you see that you're surrounded by water. And you think to yourself, I'm dying of thirst. The water looks so cool, so refreshing. I've got to have some. And so would you believe that the number 2 cause of death for stranded people on the ocean is that they drink salt water? Because it looks just like real water. I mean, it is real water. It looks just like fresh water. And they're so desperate and feeling like they're never going to get the real thing that they begin to tell themselves that it'll do the trick. And what looks like the drinkable water, slowly as they ingest it, begins to destroy them. The body was never made to process salt water. And if you don't know this already, salt makes you more thirsty. And so what do? You drink more salt water. And the more you drink, the more you want. And the more you drink, the more you want, and you're not satisfied. All the while, internally, it's killing you. Lust is like salt water to a thirsty sailor. What you're craving is love, but what you're chasing is lust. So the big idea again is this: kill lust or it will kill you. And I want to give you three C's to help you kill your lust and keep you from drinking the salt water. 3 C's. I'm going to give them to you one at a time. Number 1, confess. Confess to the Lord, to Jesus, and to your community. And here's where it gets hard. There is so much shame involved in sexual sin. I get it. I know it. I've been there. Confession is hard, but you need community. That's what our small groups are for. And so some of you need to bolt out of here as soon as we dismiss you tonight. You need to sit yourself down in a chair and go, guys, I got to talk. Because my lust has been killing me, and it's time that I start killing it. Sin thrives and grows in the dark, but it dies in the light. And what confession is doing is it's bringing your sin up into the light so it can be killed. And not just with others, but with the Lord. Guys, pray constantly for yourselves and for each other. James 5:16 says this. It says, confess your sins one to another and pray for each other that you would be healed. God wants to offer you healing from your sexual sin. Not only do we want to confess, but we need to cut off. That's the second one. Cut off. This is how I actually know if people are serious about wanting to kill their lust or not. What are you willing to give up for what you say you want? Because if you tell me that you want to kill lust, but you're not willing to inconvenience yourself a little bit, you don't really want to kill your lust. If you tell me, I want to kill lust, I don't want to lust anymore, but this guy or this girl that I've been messing around with, it just drives me sexually crazy. Like, I'm going to stay with them because I like them too much. Maybe there's somebody you need to break it off with. Cut it off. Be done. Well, Matthew chapter 5 says this. Matthew chapter 5, Jesus says this. Hey, you've said don't commit adultery. Don't have sex with someone else's spouse, right? I'm going to say if you've looked at somebody lustfully, you've already committed adultery with them in your heart. But here's what he says. If your eye causes you to sin, gouge it out, throw it away. If your hand, don't skip down, causes you to sin, cut it off and throw it away. It's better to lose one of the parts of your body than for your whole body to go to hell. Jesus is talking about eyes and hands. And before you go chop off your hand or gouge out your eye, he's speaking in hyperbole, but his point is crystal clear. If Jesus were here right now, I guarantee he would tell you that some of you need to throw a relationship in the garbage. Cut it off. Be done. Some of you need to cut off access that you have to some of your social media apps that no matter how much you try, you just can't keep from clicking. One more view of his abs, one more view of her, right? One more. You can't keep it. Cut it off. Delete it. If you're not willing to be inconvenienced enough to get rid of your Snapchat or your Instagram, do you really want to pursue love instead of lust? Be done. Cut it off. I don't know what it is for you. If it's a guy or a girl, cut it off. If it's an app, cut it off. I don't know what it is. Get radical. I don't know, some of you might need to change your social habits. You got some people you're hanging around with, and every time you're together, the conversation gets sexual real quick. Or at least, if not overtly sexual, like, let's be honest, we all know that's the direction that conversation's headed. Some of you, you need to change some social habits. There's some people you're hanging around with that if you're serious about love instead of lust, I'm not saying don't be nice to them, but maybe they don't get such a big voice in your life. Cut it off. What are you willing to do to pursue love and kill lust? Cutting off the old doesn't fix everything. Here's what I'm not saying. This isn't the legalistic, like, hey, if you really love Jesus, you're going to do all of these things and it will magically fix you. You know what? It doesn't fix your heart. There's a bigger issue, and that's the third C I'm going to get to in a second. But here's what it does. Like a garden that's being choked out by weeds, cutting off the old is like ripping out the weeds to give something new a chance to grow. And some of you got to just get radical and just rip it out. Cut some stuff off. But then I'll let something new grow. And the third C is Christ. So if the first one's confess, be honest with God and with each other about where you're at. Guys, by the way, confess thoughts, not just actions. I know, you'll be like, I'm going to have to confess 18 times a day. I know. I hope your friends are patient, because honestly, they probably need it too. Number 2, cut it off. But number 3 is Christ. Turn to Jesus for freedom from lust, freedom from shame, and experience real love and satisfaction. 1 John 1:9 says if we confess our sins, he's faithful and just to forgive us our sins. Why? Well, because he's actually clothed us in his righteousness. Jesus knows that you're lustful. He knows that you're sinful. That stuff doesn't shock him. He knew it when he hung on the cross for you. He could look forward in time and he knew that it was for you. Jesus can free you from the bondage of all of this junk. And he wants to. He's not mad at you. I'm not mad at you. I kind of yelled a lot tonight. I'm not mad. But guys, I've watched it rip time out of my life. I've watched it ruin marriages and relationships. I've watched it steal joy. And it's time to be done. What if you were to say tonight, I'm going to make the last time that I lusted the last time. The last time that I clicked on it, that's going to be the last time. I'm done. Enough is enough. Guys, I talked for a long time, and I'm sorry, but I'm not. If we get this right as a generation, it has the potential to change everything. Jesus, we are, God, this lust and pornography and the shame that goes with all of the sexual sin, God, it just makes us feel so alone and isolated. And tonight, there's people here who are living victorious lives. And God, I want to say thank you for the victory you're giving them. But God, there's students and possibly even leaders here right now tonight that this is still a very real battle. God, we can't win this on our own, and we're tired of giving it up. God, we are so tired of letting the lust win and the shame define us. God, tonight we say we want to live in confession. We want to radically cut off everything that is outside, everything that doesn't belong. And God, we want to run to Christ because Jesus is our only hope. And in just a minute, we're going to sing. And I'm going to invite you, if you want to sit while we sing and do some business with God, if we've got a couple of songs, we never do this, but if you just want to slip out and grab a leader and say, hey, can we talk one-on-one before the rest of the group gets here? Because I got some crap I got to deal with. What if the last time was the last time for you? You said, done, I'm done, enough is enough. My hope's in Jesus, he's gonna set me free, and I'm gonna pursue love and kill my lust. What would that look like for you? Go ahead, guys.
If you want, you can stand and worship. I'm going to start off with a story today, just a short one, about my brother. I was on the phone with him about a week ago, and he's not saved, for one, but he basically told me, like, hey, dude, I've just done way too many bad things. I've gone way too far to come back to Christianity. And I stopped him. I was like, Tony, that's not true. I was like, that's not what the Bible says. And the verse, Romans 3:23, for all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. And I told him, I'm like, dude, nobody's perfect. And so I thought that applied to our message today, like how some of you might have came in here today with shame and like just this heavy weight on your shoulders, a burden that you're carrying. Maybe you're embarrassed. I just want to encourage you that this is a safe place. This is a place to confront whatever that weight is